Hello, today we're going to be talking some function notation, all right? Function notation is not anything new, so hopefully this can just serve as a refresher or a reminder of things that you've done before. So function notation, all right, is just a way of writing functions, right? Notation means to write. So function notation means instead of writing things with a y, all right, we're actually going to write them with what's called f of x, okay? So we're going to write f of x equals 1/2 x minus 2. So basically the f of x is just replacing the y, all right? Kind of what this says here. Now, the reason that this is useful is because f of x shows input and output, all right? X is your input, okay, of your function. F of x is your output. So if you look here, it says, what happens when x equals -10, okay? Well, x equals -10, right? X goes right here. So the way that we write this is that we write f of -10, okay? What this is saying is that -10 is now our input, all right? We've actually chosen a value for x. So whatever number goes in parentheses, right, with the f to replace the x, that's the number that you replace for the x in the equation as well. So here we're going to have 1/2 times -10 minus 2, okay? So 1/2 times -10, that's -5. -5 minus 2, that's -7. So f of -10 equals -7, right? If -10 is the input, then -7 is the output, all right? Functions are all about inputs and outputs. So yeah, you can kind of see that over here, right? We're replacing the x with -10 in our function notation on the left. So in our equation, we're also going to replace x with -10, all right? Yeah, so I'm kind of skipping some stuff here, but yeah, this is what this is saying. F of -10 means evaluate the function when x is -10, okay? So here, all right, we've got 3 different functions, all right? And it's important to be able to pay attention to the letters, all right? This says h of 7. So when we plug in 7, it's not just going to be to any function willy-nilly, right? You're actually going to plug it in to h, okay? So we're going to replace in this equation with 7. So h of 7, all right, that's going to equal negative absolute value of 7 minus 1. Now, if you don't remember what absolute value means it takes whatever number is inside the bars and makes it positive. So since x7 is already positive, all right, it stays positive. And then we have our negative sign out in front. -7 minus 1 is -8. So really all we're doing here after we plug in our number is just order of operations, okay? So here, all right, we have g of 3, so that's going to be plugging into that t there and that t there. So we've got 2 t's in our equation. That's okay. We're just going to plug in our 3 twice. So we've got -3 squared plus 4 times 3. So like I said, this is just order of operations. Why did I write a t and not a squared? So it's important to know, right? Exponents come before multiplication. So we're going to square this first and then do this negative sign out in front after. Okay, so that becomes kind of like -9. 4 times 3 is 12. -9 plus 12 is 3. So this would, g of 3 is also 3. All right, this is f of 0. All right, so we're going to go into our f equation. So just make sure you keep paying attention, all right, to your letters. So our f equation is -3x minus 5. So that's going to be -3 times 0 minus 5. And then on the bottom, we've got 2 minus 0. So this is easy, right? Anything times 0 is 0. So that goes away. Really, that goes away. So really, we've just got -5 over 2, which is our answer. That'll be -5 halves. And we can keep going, all right? This says g of -4, so now we're going to go back to the g equation. And like I said, all right, again, always put your stuff in parentheses. It's going to make it easier to see what is going on, especially with negative signs, right? So here we have two negative signs, but the squared, remember, applies first. So this is -4 squared. -4 squared is 16, right? This is -16, 4 times -4. So really, this is -16 minus 16. That's -32. For this one, I'm actually going to copy this. Ooh. Ooh. All right. So now we're going to plug in -1 instead of 0. So -3 times -1, that's 3. Minus -1, that becomes +1. So we've got 3 minus 5, that's -2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So this is -2/3. And you don't have to watch all of these. If you want to skip, we're kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. Here we've got -7. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug that in. So we've got -7 minus 1. Now again, absolute value, all right, transforms negative numbers into positive numbers. So this will become +7. But since we have this negative sign out in front still, it goes back to being -7. And then this also equals -8. So that's how you would do something like that. You just need to match up the letters to the right equation, all right? Now, the other thing that you might do here, all right, instead of giving you the output, instead of giving you the input, they might give you the output, okay? And if you remember, f of x is the output, okay? So here, they're not saying replace x with -80, they're saying replace f of x with -80. So what happens is you set your equation equal to -80, and then you solve for x, which is the input. So if you're solving for the input, you're solving for x, all right? And so we're going to go through here. So we're going to subtract 20 on both sides. That gives us -100 equals -4/3 x. And there are different ways that you can solve this. One way would be to just multiply by the reciprocal. All right, if we multiply by the reciprocal, then this cancels out and that cancels out, and we're left with x equals, and then we just need to do -3/4 times -100, and if you put that in your calculator, you should get 75. So the input is 75, that gives us an output of -80. I don't know what they want me to say there. All right. Evaluate the functions for the given information. All right, so I want you guys to pause the video right now and try these 3 questions, okay? All right, so the answers to these 3 questions, all right, I'm going to kind of do these out of order. I'm just going to do this F1 first since I can see it. So we've got -3 times 2 minus 5 over 2 minus oh, didn't even read my own questions, guys. Classic, classic, classic. F of x equals 2, all right? So what this is saying, so that's what this was saying up here. F of x equals -80, all right? So f of x equals 2, that means 2 is going to be equal to that, right? So we've got -3x minus 5. 2 minus x. So when f of x equals 2, we're replacing the whole thing on the left side, f of x, with 2, all right? So now we need to solve. Now this is a little bit difficult to solve, but you guys know your solving skills. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2 minus x. The reason we want to do that is because then we can cancel out the whole bottom and we can get rid of our fraction. On this side, then we're going to distribute. So that gives us 4 minus 2x equals negative 3x minus 5. Now we want to start solving for x, so I'm going to add 3x onto both sides. That gives us 4 plus x equals negative 5. Now I can subtract 4 on both sides and get x equals negative 9. All right. Let's do g next, since we have g over there. So this time g of x equals negative 2, so we're going to have negative 2 equals 5/4 x minus 7. All right, this one's a little bit easier to solve, so we'll just add 7 on both sides. So we've got 5 equals 5/4 x. Now we need to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 4/5. This will cancel out with that, so we get x by itself. Now actually, this is kind of like over 1, so these 5s will just cancel out, so we just are left with x equals 4. And for our last one, for h, we've got 2/5 x plus a half. Now this one, they decided to be mean and give us negative 11/10. All right, let's figure this one out. 2/5 x plus a half. So I personally would just turn this into a common denominator situation. So I do negative 11 over 10. 5 times 2 is 10. So we've got 4/10 x, and then 2 times 5 is 10, plus 5/10. Then we can, multiply by 10 to cancel out everything on the bottom. So we've got negative 11 equals 4x plus 5. Now we can start solving. Subtract 5 on both sides. That's negative 16 equals 4x. Divide by 4, and we get x equals negative 4. So hopefully you guys read the directions better than me and got those questions correct. All right. Checkpoint. All right. So this is going to be fun. All right. We've got some domain and range stuff. All right. Now, if you remember domain and range, all right, this is points connected by a line. So we're actually going to use interval notation here, all right? And there are no arrows, so we're going to have no infinities. So we look at the farthest left point on the graph and the farthest right point on the graph. Now, this graph is hard to read, but this is 2, and it's 2 lines up. So it looks like every line is over by 1. So that must be... yeah, that must be negative 5. So our line is at negative 6. So domain, remember, is left to right. So farthest left is negative 6. Farthest right looks like it's positive 6. So we've got negative 6 to 6. Range, all right, we're down to negative 6, also up to 6. Interesting. So the domain and range are the same. Now, doing function notation with a graph, all right, you have to know inputs and outputs, all right? So this says, what is f of 3? Well, that means we're replacing x with 3, right? So we go to where x equals 3. That's this line. And we want to see, where does the graph touch that line? Well, the graph touches that line up at this point right here. So this would be the point 3, 6. So when the input is 3, the output is 6. So we're just kind of checking that. What is f of negative 5? All right, go to negative 5. Go up until you find the graph. We went up by 2, so that point is negative 5, 2. So f of negative 5 is 2, all right? F of 0, well, the line is going through the axis right there at x equals 0, so that's also going to be 0, okay? And then the other one, if f of x equals 6, what is x? Well, if they're giving us the output, all right, we just do it backwards, all right? So we know the output is the y value, so we go to the y value of 6. We go over until we can find the graph, and that's actually at x equals 3 because we've already done this. So when f of x equals 6, all right, x equals 3. What about when it equals negative 6? All right, negative 6 is down here. So we went over 1, all right? That's the value 1, -6, so x equals 1. Then it says if f of x equals 0. So this one is a little weird, right? Because you might just be tempted to say, oh, well, it's 0, right? That's easy, but there's actually a bunch of places where f of x equals 0, right? That's at y equals 0, 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 that's at y equals 0. So we actually have 6 solutions. And none of them, besides the first one, are at whole number situations. So I don't even know what a lot of these are. This one is what? -5 2/3. Just kind of guessing. This one is at -1.75 and -2.25. I don't know. Your guys' guess is as good as mine. This one looks really close to 2, so I'm going to say, what, like 2.9? And then this one is just below 4, so like -4.75. I don't know, guys. Oh, why did I say negative? That's clearly positive. All right. So this could happen, all right? You can have a bunch of outputs, all right? So if you can have a bunch of inputs all going to the same output, all right, that's okay. And so just make sure you pay attention to that. So hopefully this helped, all right, if you missed class for some reason or if you're just coming back to watch this video. If you have any questions, let me know and have a great day.